Happy Monday. I hope that everything is going well. Please take a moment to, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. Let me know how your day is going. And if there is anything you want to talk about, as you know, the first hour or so of these streams, I just hang out and chat, nothing specific. And then the second hour is when we have specific topics. Today, I was actually thinking about talking a little bit about Freemasonry and citizenship. Um, the reason being because I am working on getting my my British citizenship because my pops is from the old countries, so I am eligible for that. Even though we met a nice Canadian girl, and the rest is history. Um, However, it also got me thinking more, especially because I travel so frequently. I started thinking very much and asking the question, what does it mean to be a citizen from a Masonic perspective? What does it mean to be part of a community? What is citizenship within a Masonic context? The Square magazine um, actually has a really interesting idea of what that means. Some of which I agree with, some of which I disagree with, but I think it's worth exploring. But I do think the bigger question regarding this idea of citizenship is what does it mean to be a Mason and a citizen? If you consider the idea, and I've talked about this before, if you're a Mason somewhere, you're a Mason everywhere. For example, I'm a Mason, I'm a member of a lodge in three lodges in Canada, one lodge in Israel, one lodge in Texas, potentially another lodge in Illinois in America. What does that mean to be a Canadian Mason who's also a Mason in Texas, also be a Mason in Israel? What does it mean, the fact that I can travel anywhere in the world? I mean, obviously, budgets and passports and all that stuff I need, but the fact that I'm able to travel anywhere in the world and visit a Masonic lodge in Mexico, in the Philippines, does that affect my ability and the way I view my own Canadian citizenship? Which is worth exploring. I think there's a reason why we have these things called Masonic passports, which actually I tend to advise against. I'll talk about why that is. I think having a notebook and a notepad and maintaining your record of everywhere you travel, I talked about this a million times. A Masonic journal is vitally important. Keep yourself with a Masonic journal and keep up to date with all of your travels. But an actual Masonic passport document, I think, is actually not a good idea. I'll explain why. Better just keep a journal recording all of your visitations. Going to Peru, Mr. Keeps. That's awesome. Enjoy Peru. When are you going? I am from India. Welcome from India. I do this for a living, so please hit like and subscribe and share all in one. That would help big time. Well, patiently happy. You seem like a troll, but that's a very cruel thing to do if that is the case and that is what you did. So don't do that. All in one, I see you. Thank you for being here. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. I am from Canada. Well, show Anna. You can help me live less like poop if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Consider a super chat of 99 cents even to help me out. And hit like and hit subscribe. I am in class 10. I do not know what class 10 means. I don't know if that's some type of caste or caste system. Um, Hopefully, Dad, being a citizen of a country doesn't just mean doing as you're asked, but it means doing things before you're asked. I would hope, anyways, that would be the case. Or even asking yourself what you can do for your country. Sorry, all in one. I'm not sure what standard 10 means, but thank you for being here. And just Avery, hello. Thank you for being here. Okay, what are you studying? Like, what type of courses are you taking? And please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I do not know. I mean, I'm no fan of Donald Trump. I speak for myself personally. This channel is about Freemasonry. I speak for myself personally. I don't have a position on it because I don't know much about it. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I will say that. I don't like him. I would not support him. I'm from Canada. But that's my own personal opinion in terms of the list. I guess we'll see. Nice, Machu Picchu. And you're also going to be enjoying it because you get to avoid our winters up north. So that will be quite nice. No snow in Peru, to my knowledge. Um, well, don't be doing that. Don't be doing that because you're not one yet. Although maybe you will be. Who knows? Just enjoy your vacation. How about that? Hello, Just Avery. Thank you for being here. Hit that, like I said, everybody watching this, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, Let me know, Just Avery, all in one, if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry before we start on the main topics, obviously. I do know that there is a fair bit of Freemasonry in India brought over by the Brits, by the English people, during the occupation of India. Just Avery, where are you from? Well, I don't think that's going to happen, Dad, but I don't disagree with that. And thank you. In India, it's currently night. Yeah, you guys are what, 10 hours ahead of us? Something like that? Michael Louds, Amy. I'm doing well. How are you doing, Michael? Just Avery from America. Thank you for being here. Michael, thank you for being here. This first hour, I don't have any specific topics. I just take questions from the floor. So, any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, let me know. Silly shoe, you seem like a silly person to me for saying something like that. But nonetheless, welcome, I guess. Please hit like and subscribe. Michael is doing good. That is good. I'm glad you're doing well. Also, this is my chance to remind people. On the 21st of November, I have 2 exclusive live streams taking place. Well, silly, then you definitely are a silly person. I have a exclusive live stream for members of the Patreon. You can become a member there. And I have an exclusive live stream for members of the YouTube channel. So I hope that you will become a member of one or both. If you want to become a member of the Patreon, you can do so for free. And we'll have exclusive live streams just for membership. It's a chance for you to talk to me, potentially more directly. I'll be asking what you guys want to see or what the membership wants to see from the stream, the changes you want to see me make. I'll also be doing some giveaways. And then on December 21st, it will be another 24-hour live stream. So mark your calendars for that. We'll be celebrating Christmas. Bianca, my name is Cameron. I'm a Freemason. I talk about Freemasonry Mondays through Fridays, 1 p.m. That is true. I'll be in the old country in about a week, which is crazy to think. I'm incredibly lucky and blessed, and I feel bad saying this, to say I haven't been traveling for a while, but because that's baloney. I was in Dearborn, I was in Toronto, I was in Chicago as of October 1st, but I haven't been traveling with as much frequency. So getting to be back in the state, back on an airplane, I can't wait. I love to travel. One of the reasons I couldn't travel outside of Canada anyways for the last about 6 weeks is because I was waiting for my passport, which I should be getting today, according to the website. So by the end of the day today, I should have my new passport. Thank you to the Canadian government for, it's a new system. I don't know anybody else who has applied for their passports through Canada through the online system, but I used it. It was great. It was super easy, super convenient. I would recommend everybody consider using it if you're applying for your passport. I'd also consider everybody apply for your passport. I kind of think, I know this is a weird thing to say, and we can talk about why during the second half. I kind of view having a passport as almost a Masonic thing to do. We'll talk about why in a second. Who is a president? We don't have a president. We have a prime minister. The prime minister is Mark Carney. Silly Shoe says LOL. Well, there you go. What happened to your face? Natrona County. I'm assuming you're asking that question because my face is so handsome. Genetics, just really good genetics. What can I say? When you got a handsome pops like me, you can't help but have a handsome face, you know? It's nature. Masonic, welcome. Thank you for being here. I love to fly as well. I also love to take trains, buses, long car rides. When I say I love Canada, sorry, I do love Canada, but when I say I love to travel, I don't mean I love being in a new place, though I love that. I also love being in places I've been to a million times. I love the actual act of traveling. I love being on airplanes. I love being in cars. I love being on buses, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in transport. I genuinely enjoy those things. I think they're a lot of fun. You better answer me. Well, I don't know what I'm answering you, Mr. Keeps. Um, I'll video call you. Okay, you do that. I would love to see a video call from Machu Picchu. That would be awesome. Um, well, according to Canada Post, it should be arriving today. If not, I'll get it tomorrow, I'm sure. I'm not leaving till Sunday, so I've got this whole week to get it. Um, I do not know to what you're referring, Auslander. Once again, I just found out what Auslander Rouse means. I find that very concerning. Um, I just learned what that means. Sounds concerning to me a little bit. Silly shoe. Well, I don't need to be a particular ethnicity to be very concerned when people are cruel to ethnicities. And silly shoe, you seem like a cruel individual. I do not know what join sins means. Um, I am also not sure what G. Kreber is referring to when he says, I'm the reason they invented double doors. Is it because I'm so muscular and have such broad shoulders, I need two doors to get through? Because I'm going to assume that is the case. Um, one door will not fit my massive shoulders. Um, G. Kreber, let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Same thing with you, silly shoe. I can guess what they might be, but what are your thoughts on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, neutral? I'd love to hear them. Um, um, well, you should like everybody. Jewish people I've got wonderful people, as is all different types of people. What is the most delicious dish you've tried? Oh, Masonic, great question. I think I mentioned this in an earlier stream a few months ago, but without a question, I mean, the best meal I've ever had, without question, was in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. Um, it was celebrating the 90th anniversary of the formation of the District Grand Lodge of South America, Northern Division through UGLE. They actually had the dinner at the Monarchist Club in Rio de Janeiro. So it was all done up in like British colonial era kind of like a building architecture. But the meal itself, it was this pork with apricots. It was mashed potatoes. It was so the best pasta I've ever tried. It was pasta with leek sauce. It was so incredibly good. But I do have to run for just one moment. I think I've got a knock on my door. I'm going to mute, but I promise I'll be back in a sec. Don't worry, don't go too far. Hello.
Hey, Cameron?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, last one, I guess.
Perfect.
Yep. There you go. 1101. Okay. Cameron Adamson, right?
Yes. Thank you so much.
I will.
Okay, sorry about that. I just got back because they just delivered my passport to me. So there you go. I got it. Thank you. Not quite. That's my thought on Freemason, all bark, no bite. Well, I think the type of bite that you would want us to have, silly shoe, is not the type of bite I would want us to have. I do think that Freemasons are not as effective as we need to be. The difference is, for me, we need to be effective in the sense of spreading brotherly love, relief, and truth, kindness, respect, and a tolerance for all individuals. I suspect the type of bite you would like us to have is incredibly different than the type of bite I would like us to have. What's interesting, Freemasons, actually, the founder of the Boy Scouts in America was a Freemason. He was not the founder of Boy Scouts internationally. Boy Scouts actually existed in England first before America. Interesting little side note. But a Mason was in England, discovered the Boy Scouts or the idea of scouting, and then brought it back to America. Welcome, Michael Moore. Thank you for. Hey, so here's my passport. Check it out. Actually, that's really cool. I've never seen the back with the red. I assume by saying my chat is gay, you mean my chat is very happy and relaxed, which you're right. It absolutely is. How's it going, Michael Moore? Thank you, as always, for being here. Today's topic is going to be at the 2 p.m. mark, Freemasonry and citizenship. I'm thinking about that because I just applied and got my passport today. What it means to be a citizen, what it means to be a citizen and a Freemason. What does it mean to be a citizen when you belong to an organization that transcends international or national boundaries, I should say. Silly Shoe, despite what you think of my chat, I hope you'll still hit the like and subscribe button. Dad, never worry about what's in the chat. Human beings, if you're going to be on YouTube, then you've got to accept the fact you're going to get some interesting people saying some interesting things about you. That is just human nature. Also, yeah, but see, my face is already so handsome, 1-3, that if I were to get braces, it would be like too handsome. It would be too much. Then the handsomeness would just be incredible. So I need to have some imperfections about me. 1-3, please hit like and subscribe. Well, it's because people like to point out I'm ugly on stream. I've grown to accept that. I've grown to accept that as just the curse of being online. The ladies at the Windsor Ballet think I'm handsome, but I don't think they mean it. I don't think they're the best judge. Yes, Dad brings up a very good point. And I have mentioned that on the stream before. I'll mention it again because it is absolutely the case. When you talk about what is a great passport, what is a great Masonic, or what is a great piece of Masonic memorabilia? Normally, I'll be back in just 1 second. Normally, people think of like pins. Hey, Wolf Shanza, like this, right? These pins, which are incredible. and I've been lucky to get over the years. They think of pins, they think of coins, they think of keychains, pens, they think of mugs. However, a expired passport can be an absolutely incredible Masonic memento if you've been lucky enough, like me, to travel around the world for Freemasonry. Having said that, and Michael Moore, be curious to get your opinion on this. I'll tell you what my thoughts are. I'm not a believer in Masonic passports. What Masonic passports are is it's not a legitimate passport. I mean, it doesn't belong to citizenship. Rather, it's basically just a notepad that's labeled your Masonic passport, and it's a document in which you can keep track of all of your different Masonic visitations, right? So whenever you travel to a new lodge or a new building, you can, it has spaces to record the date of the visit, who you met, where it's located, and also a space for you to collect stamps. Very often within a Masonic lodge, they'll have a stamp. Um, I'm sure they do. I have no doubt, Mr. Keeps. They'd have some incredible ashlers, maybe rough and good. Um, my issue with, and I'm a firm believer, by the way. I'll answer your question in just one sec, curiosity nudge, because that's a very good question. I'm a firm believer, and I've said this a million times, every Mason should have a journal, and every Mason should, within their journal, keep track of where they travel, where you travel, interesting things that happen in the meeting, who you met, gifts that you received, its location, if you want to go back. You should have a Masonic journal. I don't, however, believe you should have a notepad labeled a Masonic passport, especially if it looks like this, like an actual passport. The reason being, um, and I've heard of this happening to individuals when they're traveling. They'll have their country of origin or country of citizenship passport, and then they'll have a Masonic passport. The customs officer finds the Masonic passport, and because it's called passport, they immediately start asking questions about it. Like, are you a citizen of Masonry? What does it mean to have a Masonic passport? Does this give you certain, because there are certain types of other passports. There's diplomatic passports, there's visa passports, things like that, right? So calling something a passport when you're traveling out of one's country can actually create problems in the when you're trying to cross borders, when you have both your citizenship passport and something called a Masonic passport, even though it's a colloquial term. And I've heard issues coming up with it twice. Once, very short, somebody was crossing from Canada to the States. The border agent saw the Masonic passport, asked what it meant to have a Masonic passport. Was it a special type of passport? And that became an issue. But I did hear of another brother who was actually traveling overseas, and he had a Masonic passport. They found it when they did a search of his stuff, and it brought up, like, I think he said he was in customs for like 5 hours because they asked him, don't get rid of him, it's okay, because they asked him a bunch of questions like, are you a citizen? Is this a special designation? What does it mean to have a Masonic passport? So I always actually, and maybe Michael, you managed to save yourself, I always recommend against traveling with a Masonic passport overseas. Travel with a notepad. And a note, travel with a journal. Keep track of it in your journal. Because again, there are special types of passports, diplomatic passports. There are types of passports you can get for work, visas. And if you get the two mixed up, or if the border agents get the two mixed up, it can cause problems. Um, so Michael Moore, instead of, you can keep your passport at home and then copy the info, but I'd say if you're traveling out of country, better to have a notepad and a journal than an actual quote unquote Masonic passport. Having said that, I will definitely be keeping my old passport as a way to remember the places I've been. Can you say hi, Al Jory? Um, I can say hello. Thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe. Yes, the lodge stamps. But you can get the lodge stamps in your notebook and your journal. You don't need to get it in a passport. You can get it in your journal. And I've actually got a few Masonic stamps in my journals over the years. Curiosity nudge. I can answer your question. What are the benefits of being a Freemason? And by the way, if Michael, if anybody wants to, answer that question as well, please do so. I can say for myself personally, Mr. Keeps, perfect example, right? A poker chip set. You got to be so careful. And like I said, I've known, I think he said it was 5 hours in customs because they found a Masonic passport and they didn't know what that meant. If it was a special type of passport, a special type of citizenship or designation. And again, it's not it's just a colloquial term, but I think it was you traveling to Russia. You have to just be so careful with that stuff. A journal, it's much easier to explain what it is. Um, so what are the benefits of joining Freemasonry? So curiosity nudge. I'm going to have to um, give you a couple answers. The first, and I understand this sounds like a baloney answer, but I promise you it's true. As Dad says, it would have been incredible to keep a journal while working at sea. But I hope you're keeping a Masonic journal now, Dad. I hope that some of this stuff is um, has helped you reconsider. The benefit for Freemasonry is going to be different depending on every Mason. There is no standard benefit. One of the benefits for me within Freemasonry is I feel like it brought me closer to my grandfather, particularly on my dad's side. He passed away before I was born. I never got to meet him. But the fact he was a Mason, and the fact that I'm a Mason as well, I take part in the same rituals as him. Um, I feel connected to him in a way I would not have otherwise. But that's a very personal benefit that I receive. More in general, it is obviously possible by joining, you meet people you would not meet otherwise, make friends you would not make otherwise. You also receive a social safety net you would not get otherwise. Like a rough ashlar, Kuma. Um, if I've known at least two Masons who would have been homeless were it not for Freemasonry stepping in and assisting them with benevolence, and their families as well. There's Freemasonry in Central and South Asia. I think the Philippines would be considered South Asia, right? There's a lot of Freemasonry in Asia, including in the Philippines especially. However, ultimately, I think when you think about joining Freemasonry, you don't want to think about the benefits to yourself as an individual. You want to think about what you can contribute. I've said it before, the ultimate benefit to being a Freemason is that you have the ability to contribute or to try to build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And I truly think that's the case. And that's something wonderful. Well, so the Masonic passport, again, and even this term, I don't like it because it's not really a passport. They call it that, but it's just a kind of a notebook with an education, right? It's a notebook on which they stamp or write the term Masonic passport. And what it doesn't prove you're a Mason. Anybody can buy it. All it is within on the inside, they have the passport formatted in such a way that you can get it signed by the master and officers of a lodge, record the date of a visit to a lodge, and get the Masonic stamp in the notebook or in the passport, right? But the problem is, again, first of all, it doesn't prove you're a Mason, so you can't use it to access a lodge. For that, you need your dues card. And the risks of a customs agent seeing it and questioning what it is and what it means to have, and what is it a special type of passport? To me, the risks are just too great. It does look nice, and I can understand why. One thing you could do is get a Masonic passport, but don't travel outside the country with it. Rather, just keep it and when you get home, transfer information from a notebook into the passport, and then you've got both. But to me, because you can't use it to get into a lodge, you can't use it when you're traveling. And the term, even if they were to call it a Masonic travel journal and not passport, people like the term passport because it invokes travel and it's a well-known phrase, but it's a well-known phrase for a reason. Ash MC MUFC. Uh, Pakistan needs to follow whomever they so choose. I believe in religious tolerance. Yes, although even then, I mean, your dues card, Harry, your dues card should be the most important piece of evidence. Having said that, it's a good idea to be able to respond to some basic questions. Know your degree, know your degree's modes of recognition. Doesn't hurt also to know your degree, um, your degree, um, know your degrees, modes of recognition, and know your Tyler's oath. Doesn't hurt to know those things, um, especially because it's a belt and suspenders situation, right? Which I firmly believe belt and suspenders. So have your dues cards and know the modes, and have a letter from your secretary too. It doesn't hurt. Um, no, Masonic, I appreciate the question very much, and you're absolutely right to ask that question. I would not doubt at all, Masonic, if there have been some brothers who've had a Masonic passport and tried to use that for entrance into a lodge, and it didn't work. So that would not shock me by any means. Well, curiosity nudge. I wouldn't use the term joining center. What you need to do is find a lodge. There's not really a centralized joining area, quote unquote. Having said that, I mean, there's a ton in India. There's an absolute ton. Um, to my knowledge, I think Freemasonry is doing okay in India right now. I don't know for sure. Um, I know it's doing really well in South America, doing well in Cuba, doing well in Pakistan. I don't know about India per se, but the best way to find out is grandlodgeofindia.in. You can copy and paste that. You'll find a local lodges. Freemasonry is not Jewish, nor is Freemasonry any religion, right? Freemasonry welcomes men of all different religions and beliefs. It's the best part of it, in my opinion. When people ask me why I love Freemasonry, I always say religious tolerance, and I firmly believe that. In my opinion, one of the most beautiful expressions of religious tolerance in the world, um, or in history, was in the Anderson Constitutions of 1723, if I recall correctly. Um, I know a lot of Indian people, and they're wonderful. I mean, I know a lot of both people from India. I know a lot of people like indigenous as well, but in both cases, they're great. And India seems like a beautiful country to me. I think it depends where you're at. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are some areas in every country, including India, that are rough. But actually, some friends of mine wrestled in India and looked beautiful to me. Who is John Lovitz? But Diana Spencer, please hit like and subscribe. Um, there is no such thing, by the way, as the worst place in the planet. At the end of the day, the worst place on the planet is any place you're unhappy. It's up here. Um, what do they do regularly? Well, so Freemasons, I mean, it depends, right? Regularly, what they do is they have their meetings, the purpose of which is to preserve Freemasonry. So all of the different tasks that are necessary to maintain a civic organization. Um, the Beyond that, though, it's really what matters most in Freemasonry. Well, what matters most in Freemasonry is what's done regularly, but what's memorable are the irregular events like banquets, celebrations, visits, travel, degrees. It's all of the regular boring work is necessary to create beautiful events, beautiful rituals, beautiful ceremonies. Um, I'm a knight of Columbus, and I'm here. I mean, you challenged me to that duel, Ram Ranch. I wish you best of luck. I've said it before. I have no issue with Knights of Columbus. I think we as Freemasonry to grow, we need to support um, all of our different civic organization brethren, including Knights of Columbus. So I wish you the best of, I wish the Knights the best. There can be a streak in Freemasonry. I'm not a fan of it myself. I understand where it comes from, um, where there's this attitude of like, I'm on team Freemasonry, so therefore I want Freemasonry to grow, and I don't care about any other civic organization, or if, all the other civic organizations disappeared, that's no issue. I just want Freemasonry to do well. I don't think that's the intelligent approach to take. I think we in Freemasonry need to support civic organizations in general, whether they be the Knights, Elks, Moose, whatever it might be. Um, I've been vanquished, but I'm still here, so I don't know. And if I'm evil or not, it has nothing to do with being a Freemason. Ram Ranch, if you want to vanquish me, the way to do it is to hit the like button and the subscribe button. That will vanquish me, I assure you. Um, we're on the right side of, well, I mean, whether you think I'm good or not, I will leave it up to you, but I've been lucky to know many good Masons. My pops, I'd say, is one. But beyond that, in general, Freemasons, again, Freemasons are human beings first. What that means is there are a lot of good Freemasons, but there's also a lot of bad Freemasons because a lot of bad people. I believe that if you, I believe that if you are following Masonic philosophies and following Masonic principles, you will be a good person. But there's no guarantee that you're going to do that, right? And then no matter how much Masons quote guard the West Gate, quote, we can't guarantee. Human nature is challenging, but I've met far more what I would describe as good people who are Freemasons than not so good people who are Freemasons. Even if I don't like them, there's plenty of Masons I don't like. That doesn't mean they're bad people. That just means personalities clash. I can still respect them and get along with them for the purposes of a Masonic meeting. KFC would never, they meet with Masons. I understand there's a lot of, there can be beef, between the organizations for historical reasons, but I've known KFC to meet with Masons. I've actually known a couple KFCs who are Freemasons. I say a lot. I've known several Catholics who are Freemasons. I think one of those was actually a Mason and a KFC. So take that for what it's worth. There's no way I can pronounce that. I'm going to call you 51. Was he? There might be a conspiracy theory. I have no idea. But it doesn't reflect anything on KFC. Every organization has its. Again, we're all humans first, with all of the weaknesses that come therein. Good, Spirit. That's awesome. Although I think we should keep in mind, and Spirit, I think that, I'm not saying you don't think this way. I just think we should all remember this. Everything I think we do within Freemasonry represents the craft. So, whatever you do, whether it's walking down the street, to attending a lodge, to going to work, you are representing Freemasonry. And so doing a good deed to represent Freemasonry is awesome. What would the term craft? Well, Ram, sorry, but the term craft is actually refers to stone craft or craftsmen, people who built things out of stone, right? Freemasonry, it originated from stone mason guilds in the Middle Ages. And so in the same way you call, any tradesperson a craftsman, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, masons, right? We in Freemasonry, because we evolved from operative guilds, we call them stonemasons, craftsmen, right? The craft, it's a colloquial term. Okay, he could have been. Like I said, I have no idea. But because of that, I'm not going to assign any type of aspersions towards the Knights of Columbus organization as a whole, because Gacy may have or was a member, right? That wouldn't make me distrust the Knights of Columbus, because I know a lot of good Knights of Columbus. So, um, I don't think he was. I think he was quite a bad individual. I think he was quite a terrible human being from everything I know. I may, Ram Ranch, have to block you. I feel like you might be going into trolling territory. I try not to block people as a general rule, but that is making me question some things. Spirit of Justice and saying, Courtney, hello, Courtney. Hello, Spirit. So what did you do, though? What was your good deed? How did you represent the craft well? Um, I'm not blocking you yet. You're getting close. You're getting close. Let me know, actually, Michael, Spirit, everybody watching this, Masonic Rondo, what do you think it means to be a citizen and a Freemason? Do you think being a Freemason carries a unique understanding of what it means to be a citizen? Um, do you think it changes how you view citizenship? Thank you, Curiosity Nudge. Well, I mean, first, in terms of joining Freemasonry, right, you can't join it through me. I provide information. What you need to do is find a Masonic Lodge to contact. And the best way to do that is through the Grand Lodge of India website. Awesome, Spirit. That is absolutely representing Freemasonry well. Again, we as Freemasons, I don't like this term because it's been way overused in modern discourse, but I do think that we in Freemasonry absolutely are in a privileged position to help others. We're in a privileged position because we know more people through Freemasonry. We have access to benevolence funds. We, are encouraged to strengthen our abilities to help others. And again, other people are in that same privileged position in different organizations. If you're a Knights of Columbus, you're in a privileged position to help others through your involvement with the Knights, right? That's why I'm always saying we as Freemasons, I think we should spend a few moments familiarizing ourselves with certain things. We should know in our community where the local food banks are located and shelters are located. If we meet someone who needs assistance, we should know the number to call in case someone is thinking about self-harm, and give that to them. We should know how to access benevolence in our lodge. And we should know the members that have spare rooms, spare resources. So heaven forbid a Masonic brother's house burns down, you can send him somewhere to get support and get help. But good for you, Spirit. That's awesome. Obedience to the law. That's a great answer. I think Freemason is obligated to be a good citizen. I agree with that, Michael Moore. Roman the Great. Do Masons have a different foods they? Well, Roman the Great, to be great, you need to hit like and subscribe, first of all. But second of all, do Masons have different food? I mean, we don't have different green beans. Every Mason in the chat just heard that question and immediately answered green beans. No, I mean, we eat standard, I guess. To be a Freemason, we have refreshments before and after our meetings. Depending on the lodge, some lodges have refreshments before, some lodges have refreshments after, some both. The junior warden is responsible for it. So, but the type of, again, I've mentioned this before. I think the greatest meal I ever had, Masonically speaking, was in Rio. It was incredible. The best pasta I've ever had, without a doubt, was in Rio de Janeiro. The second best meal I ever had was in this little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, in Ontario. The dinner itself was actually didn't taste very good at all, to be honest. It was like chicken and rice, but the chicken was had a weird texture. It just the dinner was not good, but the the dinner was held at a academy, like a baking academy. It was for people who wanted to get into baking. And so while the meal itself was not good, they had a dessert table stacked to the brim with every type of pie you can imagine. If you know me, I love pie. Pie and coffee is my favorite thing. So they had like blueberry, apple, peach, and they had all of these like kind of cakes. But I'm not a huge cake fan, but I love pies, and they had maybe the best peach, blueberry, apple. Like it was unbelievably good. I destroyed that dessert table, I'm proud to say. And the best one more thing I'll mention because I just had it. The best peach pie I've ever had, without a question, was in Romeo, Michigan for their Peach Festival at a Masonic building. David, hello. Thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. Joe, yes. No, I shouldn't say that because then you could sue me. No, the 2 second rule does not pertain to soup, nor does it pertain to any food you spill. If you want to eat food that is touch the floor, you will have to deal with germs. So just, there you go. Um, so here's my thing, Miss Sonic, because I hate, this is my personal opinion, I hate whipped cream. I think it's gross. I hate meringue on the top. I love like the lemon curd, and I love key lime curd as well, but I hate the topping. So just a pie without the toppings. That's what you need. Um, that makes it taste great. Joe, David, like I said, please hit like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Consider doing a 99-cent super chat. That would be incredibly kind of you. Oh, Dad, I got your message. I probably will need to get your birth certificate, but I'm really hesitant to be sending original documents through the mail. Let me double check and see if it's possible for you to send just an electronic copy. Or I do want to make it home for Christmas or sometime in December. Because of that, maybe I can get it from you then. We'll see. Yes, I mean, Michael Moore brings up a good point. Actually, I did get my food. So in Ontario, we have this food handler certification training. I did get that training. It cost a little bit of money, not much, and WMIS. So I know when I'm responsible for providing food to my brethren, I'm doing so in accordance and as safely as possible. But also, so keep allergies in mind, obviously. Make sure the food isn't spoiled, etc., etc. It's not out for more than 2 hours at room temperature, if I recall correctly, is the rule. And yeah, be aware of dietary restrictions, whether it be religious or otherwise. Shepherd's pie is great. I love shepherd's pie. How about black pudding? I'm going to be eating that in Scotland. When I was growing up and you would have black pudding, I always thought it was gross, but the last few times I've tried it, I actually really liked it. It's been probably a couple years since I've had it. Maybe I've had it at most 10 times since moving away. But every time I've tried it, I've liked it. So I'm looking forward to some good English breakfasts. I just did an interview with Andy. Let me just get the correct stuff here. I just did an interview with Andy Albright. He's from South Carolina. He is a Mason who wrote a book about symbolism in the Divine Comedy and how it can apply to Freemasonry. He was nominated as a finalist in Masonic Philosophy and Symbolism book for the Arcana Veritas Distinction Awards. He's going to be in Scotland with me in about a week. We were talking, we're going to try to get together for some drinks. I'm going to have a ginger beer. He might be having a scotch. And we're going to have some haggis together. So a South Carolina and a Canadian boy hanging out together, eating haggis, having scotch and ginger beer. What could be better? Last Saturday, the Legion had shepherd's pie for lunch. Nice. How are things going at the Legion? I hope they are going well. Though I've grown to enjoy shepherd's pie over the years. I find one thing I've grown to enjoy a lot more recently is, hello, Curiosity Nudge, is stews in general. I think I'm a big fan of stews more than I used to be. Not to my knowledge, no. I mean, he was born in, I forget when, what year, but basically missed out on, and in England too. So basically missed out on those times. But the Legion welcomes members who are not veterans as well. I know a lot of Masons in recent years have joined the Legion because they want to support it. Also, my pops worked at sea, so he technically was a member of the Merchant Navy, I believe, in England. So, I'm sorry to hear that you've heard bad things about Freemasonry, Curiosity Nudge. I hope that maybe this helps you learn some good things about Freemasonry. Bogus Freemasonry. Well, you definitely have to be careful with that stuff. You're absolutely right. Some people do think it's not that they think the same, they don't understand the differences. Like, I've never been one who's as automatically kind of opposed to quote unquote clandestine Freemasonry as others. My rule is always, if you are part of a clandestine lodge, which means a lodge that's not recognized, unrecognized is, I think, a better term in some ways. Just be honest with anybody joining, right? That your group, if you join it, that's great, but you don't have recognition, which means you don't get to travel and visit other Masonic lodges around the world. And it's not working with the rituals or the modes of recognition that would convey a legitimate Mason. Beyond that, though, if you want to start your own group, start your own group. I'm not going to stop you from it, but you need to be honest about what it is and the fact that it's your own group and does not reflect Freemasonry. I look like your math teacher. Your math teacher must be a handsome fellow, I guess. Please hit like and subscribe, Sam. I truly appreciate it. Theophilus, welcome back. 11%. There you go. Maybe I will. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to wheel around Scotland, which is hard because they have cobble streets, I'm told, so it's going to be a pain in the butt. Literally, actually, because the cobble will go through my wheelchair and the vibrations will be frustrating. Or maybe it'll feel good. Who knows? And I will ask people, I'll say, do you know Spirit of Justice? You might be related to him. Maybe I will find some of your family. Who knows? U.S. state. Which state in the U.S.? Texas? I've heard Texas has a lot. Well, the insurance, I have no idea. I don't know anything about the insurance fraud, or I've never heard of that before. So I can't say that. When it comes to Knights of Columbus, I've said it before. I think we in Freemasonry do ourselves no favors by knocking other civic organizations, whether they're fraternal civic organizations or civic organizations in general. So I wish the Knights nothing but success. Well, I don't know if that would make it a fraud or just a type of insurance that's very cheap. I don't know what will make it necessarily fraudulent. Um, New York and Illinois. Oh, I'm sad to hear about Illinois. I love Illinois. Like I said, my favorite place in the world outside of my home is Chicago and Glenview, Illinois. Oh, well, then I guess it would be. I don't know. I've not heard anything about it, so I can't say. Um, that New York has a lot of clandestine lodges or the KFC stuff? Yeah, I mean, they are growing. And the issue is that when people get nervous about it or kind of clutch their pearls about them, the issue is it's very hard to like actually control it anyways. I don't know how one would go about controlling the proliferation of clandestine lodges short of trademark infringement, right? Most Grand Lodges, legitimate ones, have the square and compass symbol trademarked. We do in Ontario. In theory, if a clandestine group is using the square and compasses, you could sue them for trademark infringement. Good luck, right? It's one thing to have something trademarked, to actually enforce it would be a pain. And you could easily just slightly modify it and try to get around it. Um, you can tell your members don't attend these lodges, but they shouldn't be attending them anyways. Beyond that, I mean, all we can do within Freemasonry is try to create a compelling enough reason to join us, and to do as much outreach as we can to get our name out there. Beyond that, there's really not much else that we can do about it. Thank you, Spirit. Yes, R.I.P. Penny. Anybody didn't see it? Hold on just one sec. Let me see if I can grab one of these. It is a tradition in Freemasonry. I suppose it might be possibly illegal. I don't know, because we do it with pennies and you're not supposed to deface currency. But it is a tradition in penny with Freemasonry, primarily in America, that if you to as a souvenir, if you're attending an event, you stamp the penny with the square and compass. Let me see if you guys can see that. Come on, focus. It's not focusing on the penny. It's being a pain. There you go. So, R.I.P. Penny. Good thing for you for keeping a, yeah. I mean, it's primarily the States that does it. Lincoln, great president. Great president. That's why I was surprised that they're canceling or retiring, like discontinuing the penny in the United States, because Lincoln's on there and Lincoln is such a popular president for good reason. He's one of the greats. I figured they would keep the penny forever. Um, do I know anything about? I mean, when we, Kevin, speak of raising within Freemasonry, we usually speak of raising in the third degree. You're initiated, passed, and raised in the third degree. And I know plenty about that. I've been to a bunch of them. Um, when it comes to Osiris, I'm assuming that might be a Memphis Mizraim reference. Well, Hiram Abiff is a very important part of Freemasonry. If he actually existed as a real person or not, I have no clue. My suspicion is he actually didn't exist. He was traditional, or not traditional. He's a legend, right? He's basically an amalgamation of a lot of different figures who were involved at King Solomon's temple. Because there is in the Bible a Hiram mentioned. Um, um, as like the chief builder. He's mentioned in two verses of the Bible, but Abiff never pops up. And I don't even think in the Bible Hiram was actually a real person. Like I said, I suspect he was a figure, kind of apocryphal figure, who is a conglomeration of a lot of different figures. Um, Even within the Bible, I'm not sure necessarily that he existed, right? Because again, all it's mentioned is Hiram as a builder, who came from uh, I forget where. I don't even know if they mentioned where he came from. But I don't think if it takes 7 years to build a temple, which I suspect it took a lot longer than 7 years as well. Um, I doubt there was a single head builder. I don't know. Well, no, there was three, right? There's in the Bible mentioned there's Hiram. Well, there's Solomon, Hiram king of Tyre, and then Hiram of Biff. Um, yes, he is mentioned in Genesis as the first blacksmith, the first um, blacksmith. You could argue that a blacksmith is kind of a descendant of stonemasonry because metal is a type of stone in a sense, right? Or metal comes from stone or comes from rock, I guess you could say. So, yeah. I mean, depending on how you want to view it, a lot of people will say Freemasons are descended from Noah, Freemasons are descended from Adam. But by that logic, everyone is descended from Noah if you take the Bible literally, right? How many lows would a Rob Lowe? I'll tell you what Rob Lowe would do. Rob Lowe would hit the like and subscribe button, DW. That's what Rob Lowe would do. Yes. Yes, they're doing what Canada did, to my knowledge. Um, I've seen the entire. Okay, so are you a Mason, Kevin, or did you sneak in somehow, which you should not do? I don't agree with putting back up the Pike statue. I don't know. I mean, I've grown to be less a fan of Albert Pike through this stream because people keep on using more as a dogma to poop on Freemasonry, even though they don't understand what it meant. And that's a pain in the butt. And I'm not a big fan of, obviously, Albert Pike's political views. He was racist, famously known to be racist. Well, then you should not watch on YouTube because you should join to get those things. And not cool to the Mason who did that. Having said that, I mean, Albert Pike's an interesting character because famously, despite being a racist, well, he had no problem saying he was a racist. He famously was surprisingly supportive of Prince Hall Freemasonry. I don't know if that's meant later in his life kind of softening his views. And for all the things he said that were baloney, he did say some valuable things about the craft. So it's tough, but I can understand not liking Albert Pike for a lot of very valid reasons. Why can't you join, Kevin Ellis? Um, Just Avery, welcome back. Thank you for being here. And to everybody who saw Kevin Ellis said, do not be sneaking cameras into the lodge rooms. I actually always leave my phone outside of the lodge room. Well, couldn't you say minerals are a type of stone? What differentiates a stone from a mineral? Um, well, being a felon isn't an automatic exclusion, Kevin. What I always say when people tell me that is apply anyways. Just be honest. Um, some of it, Rondo, not all of it. Just be honest about the felony. Tell them what happened. Because I know Masons who have criminal records who've joined. They've had to explain the record, what happened, and the steps they took to make amends or to change their life, whether it be attending drug counseling or um, attending NA or AA, or serving their time in custody or getting a job or whatever it might be. Don't automatically assume. Well, thank you, Just Avery. Then please hit like and subscribe if you've not done so yet, and that would be very much appreciated. Also, Just Avery, what I point out is you say there's a third degree on YouTube. Don't assume because something's on YouTube it's accurate or correct. There could be a lot of nonsense on YouTube as well. Thank you, Just Avery. But don't assume a felony means you're an automatically discluded from joining. Just ask. Okay, I don't want to say because every jurisdiction is different, every lodge is different. I'm not suggesting even if you didn't have a criminal record, I'm not suggesting that you'll automatically be admitted. I'm just saying, don't assume, ask. What's the Breaking Bad quote? Oh, the stones minerals thing? Absolutely, ask. We got hearts. That might be smoky. If that is smoky, thank you for being here. Please hit that like button and let me know how you're doing. You know what? This is going to make me sound terrible. I never got into Breaking Bad. I never really watched it. I will say, if there ever was an argument for universal health care, it's Breaking Bad. I saw a lot of memes and jokes about Breaking Bad in Canada, and it's so and so's at the hospital. They say you have cancer. He goes, "How much will this cost me?" The doctor says no, and then it's end credits. There would be no Breaking Bad in Canada, for whatever it's worth. Not that the Canadian healthcare system's perfect either, but this is a very cool passport. It has the thing in the front. I've never seen it before. It has like a the first page with all the info on it. It's like solid. Listen to this. I don't know if you guys can hear that well. It's nice. I've got to sign the pages, cut up my old one. Everyone in the U.S., I don't disagree with you, Kevin Ellis. I'm a big believer in single-payer healthcare system, for whatever it's worth. Samrat, welcome, Samrat. Last show I cared about, honestly, it's Pluribus. It's just on now, and it's fascinating. If you haven't watched it, may I suggest you watch it? Well, there is no, Kevin Ellis, there is no Master Mason's Bible. There's Masonic Bibles, and even those, ultimately, it's a King James Bible. So it's not like the words are any different than what you get in the standard King James edition. The difference is it's, usually got a square and compass on the front and a place for Masons to sign. And it's usually used as like a, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it now. It's usually used as a souvenir given to a new Mason upon his raising. My Random Life, thank you for being back. So I'm not aware of which, because there's different companies produce it. The company that produces the picture of the Egyptian gods. I will say within Freemasonry, it borrowed from a lot of different sources, one of which was Egyptian mysticism. A big reason for that was as Freemasonry was growing, Egyptian history and Egyptology was huge in Victorian era London and England. That was a time when you'd have a bunch of people from England traveling to Egypt, and the polite word would be going on going on expeditions. The more accurate word would be thievery, going out and raiding tombs and bringing all the items back to the British Museum. and their own personal collections often. So ancient Egypt was huge, and the ancient Egyptian aesthetic made its way into a ton of both Masonic buildings and Masonic kind of symbolism. Um, well, but I mean, so the Mason Bible, again, there's not a specific one that's given to Master Masons. There's a Masonic Bible that can be given to them, but not every lodge does it. Well, there was the scramble for Africa, but that's a different thing. This was specifically a scramble for ancient Egypt. Um, no worries. All right, Kevin. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm not going to confirm um, Masonic rituals. I'm going to say if you want to learn what is a Masonic ritual, what you need to do is join Freemasonry, or at least talk to Masons about potentially joining and see what they say. Um, what is up, Smokey? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll hit that like button if you're not done so yet. And I hope that you will, I hope that you are feeling better. Well, Egypt is in Africa, but there's a couple, I think what you're referring to, Rondo, when you said scramble for Africa, I think what you're referring to is not just England, but European countries in general scrambling to colonize Africa, for primarily for its resources, right? And for political control, and to exploit it. Egypt in particular, I think, is slightly different. I think that came later. And again, that was more about this weird obsession with, not weird, I mean, ancient Egypt is incredible. This obsession with ancient Egypt and archaeology. You saw it in Greece as well. Around the same time, a ton of people were traveling to Greece and Turkey and, you know, famously raiding tombs and archaeological sites of Greece and Troy, right? Um, Thank you, Smokey. And how are you feeling? That's the most important thing. And by the way, I know that it seems like you got your postcards, so maybe the mail is being better to me. So I will see if I can't send what I tried to send to you online a different way. Um, well, no worries, my random life. Enjoy going to the cinema. To anybody under the age of 18, make sure you have your parents' permission before being on stream. Um, so how is the recovery going, Smokey? I hope you're feeling better. Um, Slowly but surely is good. That's what matters. In a couple more minutes, we'll start on perfect, my random life. In a couple minutes, we'll start on this question: Freemasonry and citizenship. What does it mean? Um, I know some people already answered the question. I'm happy that you're alive. What are they saying for you in terms of recovery? Like, how long will it take, they think? 32 years old from from Kyrgyzstan. Welcome from Kyrgyzstan. Thank you for being here, as always. I cannot, sorry, I cannot help you to immigrate. Um, that is not my area of expertise by any means. Deep Illusion rap artist says game over. Well, this isn't a game, but I am happy to be here. Please hit like and subscribe. Uh, I cannot. Trailer Park Boys, Famous Bubbles. I cannot play any instruments. Looking back, I wish I'd learned to play some instruments. When I was a kid, I was in piano lessons and I didn't want to continue them. Looking back, I might have considered continuing them. Oh my gosh, my random life. I mean, you're probably doing better than me. What I would say is talk about and post about things you enjoy and you love. People will see you're posting about things you enjoy and love and respond to that and want to support it. Um, okay, so again, I wanted to talk today on the subject about Freemasonry and citizenship. What does it mean to be a Freemason and a citizen, especially because Freemasonry, by its definition, is without, well, how do I put this? Freemasonry has jurisdictions, it has borders, right? I am a member of the Grand Lodge in Ontario, which sets rules for me. It does not set rules for Masons in Texas and vice versa, or Israel. Having said that, one of the beautiful things about Freemasonry is I am able to travel. And when I do, or when I travel, I'm able to visit lodges in countries around the world. I visited lodges in the Philippines, Mexico, America, Europe. And while there, I've heard the Masonic ritual in different languages. Um, so, what does it mean to be a citizen of a nation when part of being a Freemason means you are a traveler? In fact, Freemasonry, a synonym for being a Freemason, is to be a traveler. And in many rituals, there is a discussion of the reason one wants to be a Freemason or a stonemason back in the day was, in fact, to be able to travel to foreign lands and to collect wages for one's work as a stonemason. So, since Freemasonry was operative exclusively, was stonemasonry, one of the major um, ideas of it was this idea of being a worker in the world, traveling within the world, traveling outside of your nation to maintain or grow your wages. So, what does it mean to be for me personally? What does it mean to be a Canadian citizen? What does it mean to have this passport? What does it mean to call myself a Canadian and be proud of being a Canadian while at the same time being part of an organization that exists in some ways in a global sense? Again, not global in the sense that we have a single global jurisdiction telling every Mason what to do. That's not the case. And people need to realize that. But in the sense of I can and I have recognition and regularity with Masonic lodges around the world. The two roles reinforce one another, creating a commitment to both personal integrity and civic duty. I agree with that. The Square magazine kind of talks about this idea. It has been well said by a thoughtful writer that some of the noblest impulses of our nature may be inspired by seemingly inadequate motive and motivations. The soldier, I am not Deep Chant, the soldier will die for the honor of the two figures which indicate the number of his regiment. A fanatic will submit to persecution and even martyrdom for the sake of half-truths. Even the atheist, whose godless creed, like the icy temperature of the Arctic Circle, seems utterly unfavorable to the growth of noble passions, will sometimes astonish us by the dignity and persistence with which he presses upon our notice his poor schemes for the regeneration of mankind. He who has a noble creed, impressed with deep convictions, has small excuse for the display of selfish side of humanity. The world is not yet so far advanced, either in civilization or refinement, than it can afford to permit any member of the human family to play the part of the lotus eater. While wrong, injustice, and poverty remain in our midst, we who care for the future of humanity are morally constrained to do our best to advance the greatest interests of our race, the human race. The mere duties of citizenship, for example, entail much more onerous responsibilities than most of us imagine. Society, or a country, or a nation, has moral as well as legal claims upon the individual, and he who merely pays his poor rate or serves on a jury can scarcely claim to have fulfilled all the obligations of a social life or of a citizen. He is compelled to contribute in one case and to give his time to the consideration of questions of fact in the other. And no well-regulated mind will for a moment think that with due performance of functions such as these, the duty of a citizen is at an end. So what they're saying there is, and this will come to Freemason in a second, being a citizen of a country means more than simply paying your taxes or simply showing up for jury duty when required. Right? Being a good citizen means more than simply doing the least that is required of one. Right? We need to, and we learn within Freemasonry that this is the case, right? We are within Freemasonry taught to be a good citizen, which means, amongst other things, not be engaged in plots or conspiracies against, not to be breaking the law. Also, though, we within Freemasonry are reminded, and this has been true since the Regius poem of 1390, that if there is a Mason who we know of to be committing crimes, or to be, engaged in any type of legal activities, we are to turn them in to the authorities, not simply because it is the Masonic thing to do, but it is the citizenship thing to do. It is what it means to be a good citizen. Right? Then they say religion, in many cases, supplies the motive force which compels attention to the higher obligations of life. But this force, immensely valuable as it is when well regulated, is often marred and narrowed by the poor dogmas of contending secretaries. The Christian citizen of the world, whose feeling of brotherhood embraces all mankind, is no doubt a very agreeable person, but not unfrequently he permits his noble creed to remain a mere theory. Brotherhood, in its true sense, is often with him indissolubly united with the Church. And although he persuades himself that he cares as much for the theist or Buddhist as he does for the members of his own communion, in practice, his brotherly feelings are sadly hampered by his prejudices. The mystic tie which binds Masons together in fraternal bonds knows no such limits as these. The Mason is not merely a brother to all those of whatever creed or color who have passed the portals of the Masonic temple, but the ethics of the craft teach him morality which for breadth and grandeur cannot be surpassed by any system of merely human origin. He is a citizen of the world by virtue of his calling and election, if we may venture for once to give secular meaning to the technological language of theology. I'll keep with this in 1 second. For Rondo's point, well, I believe, I speak for myself, I believe women can be Freemasons. I believe a woman who is a member of the Order of Women Freemasons is a Freemasons and is a brother of mine. And they would actually use in the Order of Women Freemasons, they use the term brother to, and under the sense of brotherhood of mankind. And obviously, whether you're male or female, you are part of the brotherhood of mankind. So I consider the Order of Women Freemasons to be Freemasons. I also believe Eastern Star membership is part of the Masonic family. If you want to, they're not Freemasons per se, but they are, my sisters are part of my Masonic family. I also believe that one of the most valuable things within Freemasonry is tradition. I think it connects us to the generations of past. For that reason, I believe you still need to have a fraternal side of the craft, which is exclusive to men, and the, women, the sororal side of the craft is exclusive to women. So that's how I kind of have always believed that to be the case. Maybe, but I don't know enough about the Hermetic Order of Dawn to say. I don't think it needs to be rectified. I just think you have the Order of Women Freemasons. They should be recognized. I believe they should be recognized, but I don't believe just because you recognize them, you should be able to attend their meetings, nor they attend ours. Rather, it's recognition of a Masonic group, and you kind of leave it at that. And they can come to our social functions and all that, is kind of how I would view it. The mystic tie. Okay, well, I mean, there's also liberal Freemasonry, right? There's co-Freemasonry, like Grand Orient, for example. The mystic tie, which binds Masons together in fraternal bonds, knows no such limits as these, no such religious limits, right? The Mason is not merely a brother to all those of whatever creed or color who have passed the portals of the Masonic temple, but the ethics of the craft teach him a morality which for breadth and grandeur cannot be surpassed by any system of merely human origin. He is a citizen of the world by virtue of his calling and election. If we may venture for once to give a secular meaning to the technical language of theology, he is a good subject of the state, a good neighbor, and a good husband and father. He learns to understand something of the complicated nature of human associations, and while clinging with tenacity to the doctrine of self-help, he is yet alive to the divine grandeur of the morality which teaches us to help each other. Charity, happily, is in some measure a noble contagion. Many a man who has lived wholly for himself, who has glorified in the character of this sybarite, who has felt emotions of pity and mercy and awakened powerfully within him by the example and teachings of his lodge. He enters a new world and learns, for the first time perhaps, that it is more blessed to give than receive. He realizes that thousands of helpless creatures are dependent upon the charity of their fellow mortals for bread, and the divine sentiment of pity, newly awakened in his breast, makes him a practical follower of him who made mercy the cornerstone of religion. But it is not alone as a dispenser of charity that the citizenship of Mason receives its fullest development. We do not forget that to give with discrimination requires wisdom, that relief to be effectual must never degrade or pauperize the recipient. A man may fling his gold broadcast and do no harm. Indiscriminate alms giving has, ere now, had the effect of pauperizing, making poor, whole communities. So be discretion and be careful with your charity. It, however, requires little or no worldly wisdom to perform those citizen duties which lie at the base of society. The good Mason is preeminently a truthful man. The rigid lessons of Lodge, which are illustrated by the noblest symbolism derived from the study of scientific truth, are forever before his eyes. I've talked about that a million times. My idea of a supreme being is found within the scientific truths that are before us. The mathematician is not necessarily a moral man, but he who has learned to illustrate moral truth by its scientific equivalent, derived from a study of material truths, is apt to realize vividly the enormous practical virtue and value of integrity. The teaching of moral and religious truths by the aid of symbols has never been entirely abandoned by Christians, and in that great branch of the Church, which so bitterly opposed to Masonry and its claims, symbolic illustrations has been carried to an extreme point. They don't recognize them. I think they should. I do. Again, when I say I do, what I mean by that is if I see if I meet a woman, and I have actually had them on the podcast, a woman who is a member of the Order of Women Freemasons, I would consider them a Mason. I would not attend their meetings, nor would they attend mine, and nor should they, because they have the sororal side of the craft. I'm part of the fraternal side of it. So, if a woman came to join my lodge, I would advise them to talk to the Order of Women Freemasons, is where they should go, or Eastern Star, if they have familial connections. However, the Order of Women Freemasons is recognized in UGLE, which it should be. No worries. 666, please hit like and subscribe. Right, so again, the key word there is Masonic capacity. That doesn't mean you can't hang out with them for social functions, barbecues, things like that, nor should you be opposed to. Again, as long as you keep the fraternal side of the craft fraternal, that's what matters. But UGLE has made major strides in this. Um, and I forget, I think it was 10 years ago, recognized the female side of the craft um, as, as part of Freemasonry. Uh, as Masons, we realize the wondrous bearing of constructive truth upon the moral world. The arch, the circle, and the square suggest ideas which rarely occur to a mind untrained in the principles of the craft. And our great progenitors so fully understand the symbolism of Freemasonry and how they have made Gothic cathedrals, which were erected by their hands, teachers for all time, the noblest ideas. Who understand the language in which these stone sermons are written. The divine architect has conspicuously marked his handiwork with proofs of his own integrity. Whatever we may say of the unstable winds, the meteorologist knows that the currents of the air obey the most exact and unerring laws. Human skill and science have been exhausted in the effort to make the chronometer afford some truthful approximation of flight or time. But if we cannot crack or circumscribe the limits of thought, if the moral world would be in itself too vast to grasp as a whole, we do not forget that the practical duties of life are clearly defined for all those who care to observe them. So this is an article from the Square magazine. What the Square magazine is saying is, in that article, is the idea of being a good citizen and what it means to be a good citizen and the duties, both moral, ethical, legal, and social, that we as a citizen owe to the country in which we are a citizen or of which we are a citizen should be obvious. And you can derive those obvious duties through an understanding of morality as found even in math, science, technical understandings of the world. Neither Mazda 666. Please hit like and subscribe. And again, I was thinking about this a lot. A, because I was getting my new passport, and what the passport says is at the very front of it. I'm going to read it out, right? The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada requests, in the name of His Majesty the King, all those whom it may concern to allow the bearer to pass freely without delay or hindrance, and to afford the bearer such assistance and protection as may be necessary. This passport is the property of the Government of Canada. It must be altered. You must take every precaution to safeguard it. So again, I am a citizen of Canada. Consider myself insanely lucky to be a citizen of Canada. And what that means is I am afforded protections when I travel outside of the country and when I'm within the country, obviously, as requested through the King of Canada, that all of those who bear this passport, I'm able to pass freely without delay or hindrance, and I'm asked to afford the bearers such assistance and protection as may be necessary, right? This passport means the Government of Canada, through the King, is requesting and basically saying he is our citizen, we care for him, we want him to be treated well when he is traveling. That's a really beautiful thing if you think about it, what that means. Yeah, Canada's still under the monarchy, Mike Rawls. We currently have the King, King Charles. Mike Rawls, please hit like and subscribe. I don't know what it means to be audibly gay, except maybe it means I sound fabulous. There you go. I was also thinking about this a lot because I'm applying for my United Kingdom citizenship right now because my pops is from England. And what does it mean to be a citizen of United Kingdom through my father, right? I think to be a Mason and to be a citizen, first of all, there are obviously parallels. One of the things that you often see when your Grand Lodge or your secretary is writing a letter confirming you're a Mason, and oftentimes, so if I'm traveling to another jurisdiction, oftentimes I'll request a letter from my Grand Lodge or my lodge, and that letter will confirm Brother Cameron Adamson is a Mason. He is a Mason with this lodge, joined, initiated, passed on this date. And then there will be a line at the bottom which will say something to the effect of, I am requesting that you provide Brother Cameron Adamson with all of the rights and privileges owing to a Freemason in good standing. So first you see an obvious parallel. To be a citizen or to be a Mason implies that there's a certain level of responsibility, owed towards you, either owed towards you by the country or the nation of which you're a citizen, or owed to you through other Freemasons when you meet. So you have this understanding, and this is why being a citizen of a country or being a member of a lodge, there are parallels. The most obvious parallels is you now have a group of people who owe you certain responsibilities. In the case of this being a citizen, the citizen of being a citizen of Canada, they owe me a passport if I fill out the forms, pay the money that's required. And it means the Minister of Foreign Affairs, through His Majesty the King, basically puts his name to me in a sense, says, this is our citizen, we're confirming this is our citizen, and he is deserving of assistance and protection, and deserves to pass freely because he is one of ours. And just think about how kind that is, what that means, how respectful we should be of that. The fact that even though he doesn't know me, obviously, in person, the king still, in one sense or another, and it could be the president in the States, still is saying, no, this is our citizen and he's deserving of respect. And protection. And think about, even from a Masonic perspective, when you have that Masonic letter, and on the bottom it says, give him all of the rights according to a Freemason, the right to visit, for example. It kind of is the same thing. It's one brother putting his name to you on your behalf, putting you in some ways under his protection, saying, no, I know him. I can confirm that he is a Mason, and he's deserving of those rights. I think that's something, yeah, we have Order of Rainbow as well. I think there's something kind of really beautiful about that. However, I think what Freemasonry teaches us is, if we are going to be a citizen, if we are lucky enough to be a citizen, if we are lucky enough and privileged enough to be a Mason, that does not exclusively come with the protections of that country. That does not exclusively come with the opportunities of that country. That also comes with responsibilities. And we are taught in the emulation ritual, one of my favorite parts of the ritual is in the first degree. We are reminded that to be a Mason, we are expected to be a good citizen, right? If I'm lucky enough to have this passport, if I'm lucky enough to call myself a citizen of Canada, then I have responsibilities. One of them is I'm responsible to not be involved in any type of conspiracies not to be involved in breaking the law, not to be involved in anything that would affect the order of society. And it's, again, a lot of people will ask, and I think this is, a lot of people will say, because in most jurisdictions, there is a rule that if you are found guilty, if you're a Mason and you're found guilty of a criminal offense, it's an automatic expulsion from the craft. Most jurisdictions have that rule. However, many jurisdictions also will allow someone with a criminal record to join Freemasonry. Again, depending on the type of crime, the nature of it, the story behind it, etc., etc. And they'll ask, well, emulation, it's ritual work that comes primarily through United Kingdom. So there's two types of work. Usually the way I describe it is Preston Webb, which is ritual found primarily in the States, and emulation, which is ritual that's found primarily in United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries. So that's the difference. Um, so they'll say, okay, why is it that you can join Freemason with a criminal record, but you cannot, if you're a Freemason and you get a criminal record, it's an automatic expulsion. Well, the reason is because before once you're a Freemason, again, one of the philosophies you're taught or you're reminded of or is forcefully impressed upon you, pick your term, is to be a good citizen. So therefore, if you act in a manner that is not being a good citizen after you've been a Freemason, like you break the law, well, then you can say, look, you were instructed, and as a Mason, you're instructed to be a good citizen. You have violated that, and so now it's expulsion. But before you're a Freemason, you never got that Masonic lesson, right? You can't break a Masonic law or Masonic philosophy before you're a Freemason, if that makes sense. Um, but again, it goes back to this idea of we as Freemasons, we're citizens, right? We're citizens of a country, we're citizens first. Because we're citizens first, we have a responsibility to not break the law. We're also reminded, and this goes all the way back to the Regius poem and Anderson constitutions. If a brother is committing a crime, breaking the law, we find out, we're actually instructed to inform the authorities. And that goes all the way back to 1390 with operative Freemasons. Well, you don't, again, what I would always say, Theophilus, is if you don't want the owner of the company you work for to know your felony, then you may have to say no. However, if you're comfortable talking about it, then I would say apply, explain the felony, explain the situation, and go from there. Explain what you've done in your life to try to turn it around, or how you've turned your life around. You go from there, right? So I think first and foremost, what it means to be a Mason and a good citizen, it means first of all, you're in a privileged and blessed position to have a country and an organization put their name to you, um, and afford you or request for you the protections and the protections, the conveniences, if that's the term, the assistance that comes with being a Canadian and that comes with being a Mason, right? Um, my assumption is if he received well, I know he remained a Mason after the Civil War, so it could have been because he received the pardon from Grant, um, right? So there's that. First of all, it's being appreciative and grateful for the protections that you receive, but also recognizing that with those protections, we in Freemasonry are reminded of our responsibilities to them, to either the craft or the country or both, right? Second, I think being a Freemason reminds us of truly what it means to be a citizen in the welcoming sense of the term, right? And they talk about it in that article I read. Freemasonry welcomes men, because it is a civic organization, welcomes men of all different faiths, backgrounds, religions, ethnicities. I am taught to look at you know, a Muslim man from Africa who speaks English as a third language or doesn't speak English at all, and who is 30 years my senior, as a Mason equal to me in the same sense of the 42-year-old white dude from Canada, Mason, who looks and talks just like me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the race. It doesn't matter the ethnicity. It doesn't matter the language spoken. It doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the religion. Um, he is my brother, and he is as much my brother as anybody else if he is a Mason. And I think the best countries in the world, this is my opinion, or at least I'll say Canada, which I believe is the greatest country in the world, they should parallel that understanding. And I should take that lesson from Freemasonry and apply it to being a Canadian citizen, which means If you are a citizen of Canada, of this country, and you are a Muslim man from Morocco, who speaks English as a second or third language, or doesn't speak it at all, maybe you speak French. I think the national language in Morocco is French. Um, but I mean, or let's say you don't speak English or French, you speak another language. You are still a citizen. You are still a citizen of this country. You are as Canadian as me. And I have the same love for you that I would for any other citizen. Um, I didn't do it. What didn't you do, Theophilus? Masons do believe in forgiveness, or they should, anyways. So that is something that I think Freemasonry teaches us what it means to be a citizen, is the brotherhood that we extend, we should also extend to our fellow citizens. Um, so there's that. Also, I think another thing that Freemasonry teaches us that we can apply to citizenship is when we are traveling, we are, and not just traveling, but I'm going to use the example of travel as an example. I'm always aware that I am representing Freemasonry when I'm traveling. I've got this, and I don't know if you guys can see it. Is it too? It's there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. I'll have to show it to you after. It's a sticker, and it has, actually, I think I can take it off. Can I? No, I can't. Did you see it at all down there? This here? It's got the square and compasses, and it's got the maple leaf, which means when I travel, I'm representing both Canada and Freemasonry. And one thing we're taught in Freemasonry is when traveling, it's not just about being a good citizen in your own country. It's about being a good visitor outside of it. So when I'm traveling, I have a responsibility to be respectful of the laws and the customs of the country to which I'm visiting, for whatever length of time I'm visiting. Um, because I'm representing, even if whether they know it or not, I'm a Freemason, I'm representing Freemasonry in that country. I have the symbol on, I wear the shirt sometimes. I'm representing it therein. Maple indeed, James. Welcome, James. Thank you for being here. Um, and so, but I think for me, it, it goes a little bit beyond that. Like it's everything, right? Like it's right from the get-go. If I'm traveling, let's say to Scotland, England, which I'm going to soon. Well, it's important that I have this passport, and the passport is up to date. The passport is not damaged. It's important that any other documents or forms I need to fill out, I have filled out in advance. Do I need to have a visa? Do I need certain vaccinations? Even if I don't need certain vaccinations, are they recommended? Because I don't want to be traveling to a country and risking getting them ill, or getting ill and bringing it back to Canada. Um, it's being polite and kind to the customs and border staff that are helping me go through the process, as well as all of the staff on the airlines, as well as all of the citizens. Um, if I'm acting a fool in a foreign country, they see that car badge. Now they have a negative view of all Freemasons. So I think being a citizen means understanding that when you are outside of your country, you still represent that country. And you have a responsibility towards, if nothing else, even if you don't care about where you're visiting, which you should, you have responsibility to care about your home country and act in a manner that reflects well upon it. And with Freemasonry, it is exactly the same thing. Um, well, I will check it after, Smokey. I don't want to check it while I'm streaming at the moment. I'm representing Freemasonry. I need to remember that and act in a manner that reflects well upon it. Um, and then I can understand, and I have heard some people say this. They say, I disagree, and I'll explain why. But they'll say, you cannot be a citizen of a country and a Mason because Freemasonry has global affiliations. So there's this almost this idea of like a dual loyalty, in the sense of like, how can I call myself a citizen of Canada if I have brothers in Texas, brothers in Europe, brothers in Asia, brothers in Africa, right? Won't I have some type of weird loyalty to them that overrides my loyalty to Canada? First of all, so obviously the most obvious debate about that and disagreement about that is, let's imagine I have a very, very um, large family, right? And I have brothers that move from Canada to Africa, to Europe, to Asia, to South America. They're still my brothers, and I still love them. But that doesn't mean that I have dual loyalties now, and I'm less loyal to Canada because I love my brother who moved to Africa or anything to that extent, right? But I think it's what they're trying to say with that, and they give examples. Um, of, let's say, generals in an army or something who recognize one another as Masons and choose to not execute the other general or whatever it is. In the Civil War, you had brethren. They would have their battles, but afterwards, if there was a Masonic brother on the battlefield from an opposing side, they would actually collect their belongings, return them to the families, give them Masonic burials, things like that. Here's the way what I would say to that. And people can figure this out however they want to. Let's say I have no legs, so I can't, I wouldn't be able to join the military. But let's imagine, I hope it never happens, but knock on wood. Let's imagine Canada and America were to actually go to war. I hope it never happens. I would obviously cheer for Canada. I would want Canada to win. That would be what I would hope for. Having said that, um, I would not stop loving, and I would want Canada to fight with whatever it took to fight. However, through that, I would never stop loving my brethren from the States. And once the war was over, and again, hopefully we won, I would welcome back any American brethren to sit in my Masonic lodge, and I would sit in their Masonic lodge. It's possible to both love your country and love your brethren around the world at the same time, right? I have hair, I have all this hair. And honestly, that type of love, in my opinion, actually has the capability to limit or to even potentially stop wars from happening. Um, a great example of um, kind of the opposite, like what the danger is in World War II, actually a little bit before World War II, famously, United Grand Lodge of England um, Masons, when Hitler came to power, stopped recognizing Freemasons out of Germany. So if you were a Mason in Germany during World War II or under the Nazi regime, aside from the fact that Freemasonry was outlawed in Nazi Germany, United Grand Lodge of England also stopped recognizing you, right? You look back though, what difference did that make? It didn't stop anything terrible from happening, and actually German Masons ended up going into the concentration camps as well. I think if we try to approach the world with both a love of our country and a love of our brothers around the world, maybe those bonds of brotherhood can help fight back against some of the worst myopic views where we we don't recognize the suffering or the brotherhood of those around us in other countries. Especially because, look, it does Canada or my country no good at all if every other country around the world is suffering and we're rich, right? I don't think that benefits us. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, famously a Freemason, famously said, when your neighbor's house is on fire, it's no time to argue about the cost of a fire hose. Help him because he's your neighbor, he's your brother, right? I hope so too. I don't think it's going to happen either. But my point is, I mean, and you look at FDR, he was a Freemason. He loved America, I have no doubt. He was, advocating for America to get involved in World War II because he recognized, again, sooner that even though he's American, he loves America, to ignore the problems in the rest of the world, to not love them is not going to be helpful. So I guess what I'm trying to say there is it is absolutely possible to love your country, which I do, and also to love your brothers around the world. Um, and somebody mentioned above the idea of brothers in Christ, and that certainly is an analogy, but I think Freemasonry is even more beautiful in the sense that it's not brotherhood based on a religion, it's brotherhood based on a civic organization. So it transcends religious, spiritual, and every other type of bond. Um, so I think to kind of, and let me know what you guys think if what I said made sense. When I say, what does it mean to be a Freemason and a citizen? First of all, I think it means you are incredibly lucky and privileged. I'm going to say this especially about Canada. I feel incredibly lucky and privileged to be Canadian. I also feel incredibly lucky and privileged to be a Mason. Um, and one of the reasons you feel lucky and privileged is because to be a citizen, to be a member, means that country, that organization is putting its name behind you, putting its name on you. Again, what does a passport say? The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada requests, in the name of His Majesty of the King, all those whom it may concern to allow the bearer to pass freely without delay or hindrance, and to afford the bearer such assistance and protection as may be necessary. And actually, my letter from my Masonic secretary, and let me actually read it out for you guys. So you'll see what I say when I say it's similar wording. Interestingly enough, what's on? There's Heritage Canada pictures, I think. There's pictures anyways. There's a lot of windmills. If you look at the letter, the last line, it is our wish that you extend every courtesy to worshipful brother Cameron Adamson in granting him visitation privileges in your lodge. So again, what you see here is it's exactly the same wording, or not exactly the same wording, it's the same spirit. This is our citizen, this is our member, this is our brother, and you are requested by authority of the king, by authority of the Grand Master, to grant him whatever privileges and protections are necessary. That's something you should be honored to have. Because you should be honored to have it, you should also be aware of the responsibilities that it assigns to you. The responsibility to recognize your brethren around the world as your Masonic brothers, regardless of their language, regardless of their race, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of anything else, right? If I want my lodge, if I want to be able to travel, let's say to Morocco, and want and expect, in fact, to be extended every courtesy in visitation privileges as a Mason, then by definition, I have to extend every courtesy to the Moroccan brother who comes to visit me in my lodge in Canada, regardless, again, of race, religion, language, etc., etc. I can't expect privilege to be extended to me and not expect those same privileges to be extended to somebody else who is a Mason in good standing. That is my responsibility as a Mason. My responsibility as a Canadian is the same thing in the sense that if I expect um, if I expect to be afforded certain privileges and rights as a Canadian citizen, then whether you are a Canadian citizen who's been a citizen for all of his life, or you became a citizen 3 months ago, and you don't speak the language, and you're from a different country, or whatever it might be, you're a different race, ethnicity, you're still a fellow citizen. I still need to expect the same protections and rights to be extended towards you. That's very kind, Masonic. I truly appreciate that. Also, I need to understand that to be a Mason, I'm a citizen first. I need to follow the Masonic guidelines on citizenship, which is to be a good citizen, to obey the laws um, of the country in which I live, and I'm a citizen, and recognize and understand if I break those laws, one of the things that will happen is I will lose my Masonic citizenship because I've acted in a manner that is not only negative as a citizen, but negative as a Freemason. If you cannot be a good Freemason if you're not being a good citizen, right? It's the same. Um, a good citizen is a good Mason, I would argue, by definition. Um, and it's to recognize and understand that as a citizen of whatever country I am, whatever country I'm a citizen of, I need to recognize and understand that I am representing when I travel Freemasonry and the country. And that means acting in a manner that reflects well upon both of those things. That means if I'm traveling to another country, I need to have, my passport's up to date, my paperwork completed. I don't want to be going there and causing troubles for the customs workers who have to work hard enough as it is. To be respectful of the laws of the country in which I'm visiting, right? To be respectful of the people of the country, to not bring any bad, negative attitudes towards it. And this goes back to our ancient operative Mason, Masonic forefathers, who were taught to be good and peaceable subjects because if they were not, they would reflect badly on the craft. Allah, Freemasonry is not Satanism, but thank you for being here nonetheless. Please hit like and subscribe. So I guess what I'd say, if this counts as advice to any Freemasons who are watching this, remember, to be a Freemason is first and foremost to be a good citizen. You need to be a good citizen to the country in which you're located, not to be breaking laws. Understand that if other Masons are not being good citizens, you have a responsibility to talk to them and address it, and perhaps talk to the authorities. And you need to make sure that when you're traveling, you always keep in mind you represent both your country of citizenship and you represent your Masonic lodge. And to act in a manner that reflects well on both of them. Everything from having your passport and information up to date, getting your vaccinations if you need to be respectful of the laws. And understand that it is possible to both love your Masonic brethren around the world as your own and love your country and love your citizenship. Having brethren around the world does not mean you are less inclined to love your country and less inclined to support it, even if it is, in opposition to another country with Masons, right? I think, well, Freemasonry is not satanic, nor is it Judaic. It's not a religion of any sort, Allah. And to keep in mind that the bonds of brotherhood are made of stone, the political situation is made of sand. What that means is, if, for example, like the one reason I continue to visit the United States, despite a lot of, people not wanting to from Canada because of the current political climate, is because even though I'm not a fan of the current politics of the States, that does not mean I've stopped loving my Masonic brethren in the States, and will still visit them and support them. Um, who's to say we have effed up rituals? Rituals or ceremony are about creating bonds of brotherhood through shared experience. So I guess what I'd say for all of this is I'm proud to be a Canadian citizen. I'm proud to be looking into getting my United Kingdom citizenship and the work it takes to do that. And I'm proud to be a Freemason. And those things do not stand in opposition to one another, but rather they are um, complementary towards one another. Yeah, who are the Sons of Liberty? I'm not sure what that is either. It sounds vaguely like a political group, and Freemasonry, keep in mind, is not political. And to everybody watching this, please hit like and subscribe, even you, Allah. Let me know what that made sense, if everything I said made sense. If it didn't, I'll try my best to explain once again. Right now, the thing I got to figure out is how I'm going to go about getting my UK citizenship, because I believe I need birth certificates from my pops, but I'd be really hesitant to send them through mail. Documents like that you cannot replace, obviously. Not that the mail isn't great, but I'd be really nervous about that. I'd probably rather come pick it up in person, just so I know I got it. Um, I know many Islamic friends and brethren. They're great people. So I don't know about that. I'm trying to learn more about, I've said this before, I'm trying to learn more about religions. I'm kind of a little bit conversant in the Abrahamic faiths, but a little bit is, oh yes, Sons of Liberty from Assassin's Creed. Maybe. So I'm trying to become, once again, a little bit more conversant. I've actually got, here, I just picked it up. I'm going to read all three, but I've got the Holy Bible here, which I plan to read, and then I'm going to read the Quran, and then I'm going to read the Torah, just because I'm not saying I believe in I believe in a supreme being. I'm very kind of hesitant about organized religion, but I want to become more conversant in the Abrahamic faiths. I know the cliff notes, but I'd like to be more conversant in it, because I have a lot of brothers who, again, are Muslim, are Christian, are Jewish, they're Hindu, Sikh, Wiccan, Indigenous, and their faith is very important to them, and I should be respectful of and know more about their faiths. If it's important to a brother, it's important to me. That should be the rule. Um, I think they were in Assassin's Creed, though, Rondo. If I recall correctly, they're mentioned in Assassin's Creed Part 3. Marcus, please hit like and subscribe. Allah, please hit like and subscribe. Allah, I think, I don't think I agree with you on much of anything, but I still appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for joining. Okay, I've been to Freemason in Mexico. I've been to Mexico, I should say, about 3 times. Awesome country, awesome people. I will check it out for sure. Yeah, like I said, I've talked about my belief in God and what I think of God, so, and how I define it. Again, I use the term supreme being because I think God, it's too easy for the term God to be ascribed to one particular religious belief. So if you're Christian, or if you're in Canada, you talk about God, most people come at it from a Christian perspective. I prefer supreme being to recognize the openness of it. I have no idea what that is, and Kidu, but please hit like and subscribe. I think what you're saying is I have a big head. Must be because I have a very large brain. So when you got a large brain, like I do, what can you say? You're going to get a lot of I've got a lot of great ideas up here. Oh, by the way, we have the Canadian budget being voted on today in the House of Commons. I've talked about the budget, the places or the things within the budget or the initiatives within the budget that I think apply to Freemasonry. We'll see if it goes if it passes. I suspect it will. You never know for sure, but I suspect it will. 12 more days for what? Um, I'm going to Scotland in 7 days, 6 days. Thank you, Masonic. I appreciate it. What's on? Oh, the 29th. Yes, we'll have to. It's going to be rough to do our live stream together. I'll have to do it later than normal, either 8 p.m. or maybe do something on the 30th instead. Because I got a bunch of stuff. I'm getting back home 29th in the morning. Then I'm emceeing a friend's birthday party. Then I got another thing I got to do. So we may push it past the 29th if that would work for you. What language do you speak in Keto? And please hit like and subscribe. As I was saying, that would be very helpful indeed. I'm hoping to get 3,000 subs by the end of the year, which would be wonderful. But even if I don't, I've had a great year on the stream, so. What's up, Christopher? Nice. Keep up the good work, Smokey. 5 away is awesome. We're going to give this probably another 2 hours, another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll end the stream. Pay attention as always for my social media posts. I've got a lot coming out. It's going to be great. And like I said, I'll be back at 1 a.m. as well. I always do. And thank you. It's been a great stream. Well attended. Very much appreciated. As always, don't forget to let me know what you guys want to see. And I talked about this before, but I have 2 exclusive live streams coming up on the 21st. One at 2 to 3, one from 3 to 4. It is late, but I'm a night owl. What can I say? I don't mind staying up late. So I don't mind staying up late at all. But I think let's call off the stream for now. I'll be back soon. All right, guys. See you later. Have a great night. Or great day, I should say.